And we continue this afternoon on Central Valley Talk. I'm Mike Scott, joined by Lieutenant Colonel James Shepard from the Civil Air Patrol, and we're going to talk about all kinds of different things. You were just telling me 57,000 members across the country of Civil Air Patrol.
That's correct.
Yeah. What do they do?
Well, they do all kinds of things. It's really a very multi-mission organization. Many people may be familiar with Civil Air Patrol because of the search and rescue missions that we do for downed aircraft. In fact, we fly 85% of those missions over land within the country. Or they may have heard of us because of our cadet program, which is for youth from ages 12 to 18, basically junior high through high school. And it is a great leadership development program. It's a program for youth, if they have an interest perhaps in competing for an academy slot for ROTC, it is great preparation for that. And
are any of our local high school campuses involved in that?
This is not an on-campus
it's not,
program.
Okay.
It is. It's different from junior ROTC. We have two junior ROTC programs locally, and we do have several cadets who are members of both.
Okay.
That's all. That's very permissible. And one of the advantages of being a CAP cadet is the last few years we have been able to maintain our funding for cadet orientation flights, and every cadet in our program gets up to 5 orientation flights with advancing complexity in each flight, and they actually get a chance to fly a real airplane. They don't take off and land, but they do fly the airplane above 1,000 feet. And some of those cadets really do great. You can tell the ones who are definitely shooting to be pilots because they've been putting in their time on Microsoft 10, Well,
let me tell you, I have flown an FA-18. I flew with the Blue Angels a few years ago, and they let me take the controls for a little bit. That was awesome.
That would be absolutely awesome.
Yeah. All right.
I'll have to check them out next time they're in town because
they were just in San Francisco last weekend for Fleet Week.
Yeah. I used to fly F-4s for National Guard here, and it's been quite a few years since I've flown jets, so I'm overdue.
You're overdue. You were just telling me before we went on that the local Civil Air Patrol squadron got a nice award or recognition.
Well, we got a huge recognition from the National Conference. We were voted the National Squadron of Distinction for our cadet program, which means we had the #1 cadet program out of like 1,200 squadrons nationwide. And that is quite an honor.
What do you think made the local squadron stand out?
Well, they very much go by the numbers. They look at recruiting. They look at retention. They look at how are your cadets progressing in the program. How many cadet officers are you producing? And also those orientation flights I mentioned before. Are you getting those flights done for your cadets? So they're looking for all of those things, as well as what's the community involvement, because community service is also an integral part of the Civil Air Patrol. So we'll be marching in the Veterans Day Parade coming up here in November, and we also are very much looking to expand our external aerospace education, which would help provide curricula to school teachers who are wanting to get their children in those classes more interested in the STEM subjects, the science, technology, engineering, and math that we need more of to keep our country, both strong and growing. If you look at the international statistics, we've sort of been falling behind in that department, and we need to change that around.
Sure.
And we can start even in kindergarten with the ACE program. So if there's any teachers that hear that, I hope you see my contact information, and I'd love to talk with you about setting that up for your school.
Okay. Before you go, there's one more thing I want to talk about. All the recent wildfires we had here in California. Civil Air Patrol has been out taking aerial surveys of the damage, correct?
That's correct. One of our growing missions is called post-disaster reconnaissance. And just in this past week, we've flown nearly 60 hours, the California wing, not just this squadron, and has surveyed 360 square miles. And this digital information then goes to the State Office of Emergency Services, and they get to see where the damage is. They get to actually make some decisions on what needs to be done. Because we actually have a new camera system that can be put on the struts of our aircraft, and then as they fly over and do the reconnaissance, we'll give you a stereo view. So when they're interpreting it, they see the imagery in 3D, and that is that's pretty recent for us.
Yeah.
We were making do with some very nice Nikons before that, and
This is a step up.
and now we can do stereo imagery. So when they're looking at things and perhaps evaluating what they need to do with this hillside before all the mud comes down, they hopefully can make some positive decisions and maybe avoid some further tragedies, which would be the ideal for that.
Okay. Is there a website for the Civil Air Patrol? Where can folks get more information about what you do?
Well, there sure is. Our national website that'd be able to answer most people's questions would be www.gocivilairpatrol.com. And locally, we meet every Thursday at the National Guard Armory at the fairgrounds, which, of course, currently is filled with quilts. Quilting is not one of our typical functions.
So no meeting this week.
We're meeting anyway.
Oh.
We'll just try to work.
You can have a corn dog.
We'll work around the quilts.
All right.
So, and if they want information locally, they can contact me directly at 978-5884.
Lieutenant Colonel James Shepard from the Civil Air Patrol.
Okay,
Thank you,
very-
sir.
very nice talking
Thank you
with
for your
you.
service.
Okay.
All right, and we will be back with more on Central Valley Talk.